the Board of Trustees meeting, a special meeting set for today. This is also being recorded via Zoom, so anybody who is on this Zoom feed and does not wish to be recorded, you can exit at this time. Otherwise, we will proceed with this being a recorded proceeding. I would ask for a roll call, please, by Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Bauerlein.
Here.
Trustee Karp.
Here.
Trustee Keenan.
Here.
Trustee Kessler.
Here.
Trustee Lipinski.
Here.
Trustee Mackey.
Here.
Trustee Rufo.
Here.
Trustee Ruiz is excused. Trustee Spalding.
Here.
Trustee Spear.
Here.
Chair Jinks.
Here.
Vice Chair Cristaldi.
Here.
Thank you.
Quorum is present.
Thank you.
Chair.
Can you confirm, please, the public notice of meeting?
Yes, this meeting was publicly noticed.
Thank you. We have a call for public comment that is going to be moved to the end of the agenda due to the scheduling of certain trustees, and that this is a special meeting, and we do need to get through the action items. So at the outset, what I would just like to point out, just give me a moment, please, is that under Florida Statute 1004.32, New College of Florida has a legislative statutory mission, and those mission and goals are spelled out. And so the mission and goals of New College of Florida is to have a campus in Sarasota County, and it serves a distinctive mission as the residential liberal arts honors college of the state of Florida. To maintain this mission, New College of Florida has the following goals, and I'm just going to cite them from the statute. To provide a quality education to students of high ability who, because of their ability, deserve a program of study that is both demanding and stimulating. To engage in educational reform by combining educational innovation with educational excellence. To provide programs of study that allow students to design their educational experience as much as possible in accordance with their individual interests, values, and abilities, and to challenge students not only to master existing bodies of knowledge, but also to extend the frontiers of knowledge through original research. And this is what the Florida legislature has set forth. And in the new college regs, the new college mission statement mirrors these same mandates, if you will. Now, we have had 7 new trustees appointed, which is, had people, have taken notice. And part of that is because at least prior to this, at least 3 of 13 board members had stopped participating. And we now have a new board, an active board that intends to fulfill as best as possible the legislative mandate. New College has, and its reputation has strayed from its simple statutory mission as the residential liberal arts honors college of the state of Florida, and to engage in educational reform by combining educational innovation with educational excellence. And that's really our goal, is educational excellence for our students. The discussion about New College and its future is not a new one. In 2020, the legislature considered a bill that would have merged New College and Florida Polytechnic University under the umbrella of the University of Florida. New College has been, largely labeled now a soft skills institution with no real notable connective thread or contribution to Florida's higher education system or Florida's workforce. And that is simply not an acceptable standard for us for a publicly funded higher education institution. The current leadership in recent years has been given chances to try to remedy some of the failings of the school, and that has not happened. We have received some dollars from the Florida legislature. Just briefly, you may have seen it in the news. We've received or will receive from appropriation 143, $10,000 in recurring funds and 10 million, I'm sorry, and 5 million in non-recurring funds for operational enhancements. And of these funds, 5 million shall be used to provide scholarships to students. We also had for the Pritzker Marine Biology Service Corps additional remodeling and allocation of 1.9 million and change to address the physical situation with that building. However, our endowments have been small, and we will need money, and we will need to work to get us back as the free thinkers, risk takers, and trailblazers that at one time, more than 20 years ago now, this school once had that status. So the current offerings are an unattractive mix of mostly low return on investment programs, frankly, one-sided education, and we need to go back to that work to establish the educational excellence standard. Now, we, at our previous meeting, announced that we were having, we were going to be able to retain on an interim basis Richard Corcoran. Richard Corcoran has a background in education and higher education. He also has political ties to help us secure necessary funding for the school. He's a forward-facing person, and he is, from review of his background and qualities and experience, the leader that we need to take the school and to operate it and to run it and to get the funding and to fix as best we can what is broken to get us to that standard as required by the legislative mandate. Richard Corcoran will be the leading conversation, if you will, on what higher education is now and what it should be here at New College, and will be leading the conversation in the national spotlight. And that is going to require someone who's battle tested and ready on day one. So Richard Corcoran is an attorney. He was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He was appointed by the governor as the Commissioner of Education, where he oversaw the state college system. And he was a member of the Board of Governors, the governing body for the State University System, or SUS, of Florida. His experience for this undertaking is unique, is specialized, and he will be the person that can take us from where we are now to where we need to be. So the proposed interim president contract has been circulated, and I would ask at this time, given our time constraints, if there is a motion that one of the Board of Trustee members can make on the proposed interim contract for the
Madam Chairman.
President. Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, that was very well stated and presented. I would move that we accept this interim contract for Richard Corcoran for all the reasons you stated. I think he will be a dynamic head to launch us in this great new opportunity to rebuild the school. So very enthusiastically, I move that we accept this contract.
Thank you. Do we have a second, please, on the motion?
Mr. Rupp, there's one inaccurate statement in the contract.
We will have discussion. Trustee Keenan, right now, I'm waiting for a second on the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and Ms. Fitzpatrick, you'll record that second, please?
Yes.
Okay. The motion's been made, a second has been made, and we can have a discussion before we take a vote. And I see, so Trustee Keenan's hand went up first that I could see. So we'll have her state her discussion point on this motion.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So on the fourth whereas, if you're looking at the contract, it says Corcoran has served as a member of the Board of Governors from May 2022 through present, but I believe he resigned in January. That's the latest that I heard. So that should probably be corrected before we vote on the contract, unless that's not correct. And then I had a couple comments for the board to consider. First, consider whether we have the funds to be able to pay this contract. Christy, I don't know if you were able to get somebody from the foundation to confirm.
To answer your question, we did confer with the finance director of the foundation and confirm that in the foundation's account, we do have the non-discretionary dollars available exactly for the purpose of this contract.
Okay, perfect. And then the other consideration I wanted to bring up is that, as you guys know, this is a $400,000 increase from our last precedent. And so by voting on this, we're raising the bar pretty high. And so excluding the foundation employees, the next highest paid employee is going to be about $187,000. And so that's about a $500,000 difference. And so by increasing the salary of the president, we're probably going to have to raise the bar for other employees. And so that's just a consideration that we should think about by agreeing to this. And then the other comments I wanted to bring up was some more ethical concerns. As you guys know, this candidate was first brought up as a friend of one of our trustees, and on public record too. And it's been informed. I've been informed, and I was not able to personally confirm this, but I was told that Corcoran's firm sent out a message about him getting this position of interim president before the actual board meeting happened. And I would ask our chair to confirm whether or not that is true. That obviously gives the appearance, unless Mary Ruiz, our previous chair, was having conversations, gives the appearance that the board was having business behind closed doors with out of the sunshine law. So we want to confirm whether or not that is true for our own credibility and reputation. And I think it's also just important to do our due diligence and consider more than one employee, more than one candidate during this, just since we've only had one candidate and we do still have time to consider other candidates. I think it would just be smart to look at our other options.
Thank you, Trustee Keenan. Your points are noted. I would tell you that what is the procedure in a situation like this is to have an interim president appointed. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Board of Governors requirement that once we have an interim president in place, we are required under the BOG rules to conduct a search for a full-time full president, which will happen under BOG rules. And so, this is a discussion point. This isn't, I don't know how else to answer your other questions, but this candidate came before us. The board voted that we wanted to go to an interim contract with him, and that is what's pending at the moment. The next hand I saw was actually Mr. Lipinski, and then Mr. Bauerlein, and then Mr. Spalding. But actually, I'm going to go to Vice Chair Cristaldi, since he's the vice. Mr. Cristaldi.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And I feel bad at being taken out of order, but I just had a few questions that I think in exercising our fiduciary duty, if we get yes answers to these, we don't have to talk about them a lot. One, did Mr. Smoker or some counsel review the contract and sign off on it?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Second, did we consult with anyone on the compensation level to make a determination that it's within the range of kind of reasonable compensation within the state university system?
Yes, various contracts were reviewed personally by me, the interim contracts for two other financial institutions and the contracts for the actual president offices of the institutions in the state university system. And the ranges here are totally within those ranges. And I would just note as a point of information that when, a situation like here where the interim, president is coming in where there's no longer a president and there's so much to be done very quickly for an institution that has the types of issues that New College unfortunately has, that, pay scale is warranted. And as I explained to Trustee Keenan, that, after this, once we get the interim candidate in as the interim president, we're still required under the BOG rules to do an extensive search with committee members and members of the Board of Governors. And so, and that's not waivable. So right now, this motion is on the floor to get Mr. Corcoran in as the interim president to take us for at least the contract period is 18 months, or the search committee coming up and a president being identified beforehand. So the longest this contract would run is 18 months.
And just to be clear, I'm fully supportive. I'm just creating a record so we can document some of these diligence things that I presumed that were done. One final diligence question and one quick comment. I'm not at all an expert on accreditation, but has someone either looked at or will the Board of Governors look at to ensure that we're not tripping any accreditation requirements through our accrediting body?
There
are probably some qualification requirements, and I'm sure the speaker meets those requirements, but I just wanted to make sure we're doing our due diligence on that regard as well.
So the Board of Governors will be conducting a meeting for the purpose of reviewing and approving the contract for the interim president of New College. And so we have had to conduct this special meeting in order to get the contract to the Board of Governors so it can then notice its meeting and conduct its review. And, as the chair of this Board of Trustees, I will also be, in attendance at that meeting. So this goes to the higher level of review by the Board of Governors.
Perfect. And then one final comment, Madam Chair. Thank you for entertaining these. I noted, and I know that it's a fairly typical practice for the independent foundation to provide some of the funding for certain aspects of it. And that's the case with this agreement as well. I also noted, though, that there's no signature line for the foundation. I just wondered, and maybe this is, I'll be happy to approve it either way, but maybe this is a question for Mr. Smoker to look into to just make sure that if we do need a foundation signature line, since there's some funds committed from the foundation, that we have that on here as well.
So what I can tell you is in the other contracts that I reviewed, there were no signature lines for the direct support organizations or the DSO for them to sign the contract. But I know that for our situation here, we do have the non-discretionary funds. I have not seen signatures on the other contracts that I reviewed from the direct support organizations.
It would, Mr. Smoker, it would. Given the dotting every I and crossing every T is important to us, I think all of us as board members, I don't mean to speak for anyone else. So if there's even a chance we need an extra signature, my instinct would be let's not leave any loopholes. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And if that's the situation, I believe that the Board of Governors would certainly have us get that handled. But I thank you. The next line hand, and then I'll get to the other two, is Mr. Trustee Lipinski.
Yeah, I just wanted to call the board's attention to one clause in the contract, which I think is going to bear on our future work. So in order for the board to get our preferred candidate for the interim president position, we're paying a housing allowance of $84,000 a year. And so I was curious about this, and I looked up the other university presidents, and about half of the schools in Florida provide a housing allowance, and half of the schools actually provide a residence. And of the schools that provide a housing allowance, the range of housing allowance goes from 24,000 to 84,000. So this is the the upper end of housing allowance. The average is $50,000, so we're fully 50% above the average housing allowance needed to get our preferred candidate in this case. And the reason that I just wanted to call our attention to this is I've been involved in searches for faculty members, for campus police officers, for admissions professionals, and the housing costs in the Sarasota area being among the highest in Florida has had a bearing on a lot of the searches that we do as a college in getting the strongest candidates possible. And so as the board continues our work and we think about growth for the college and we think about bringing in really talented people from outside to help us, like to keep in mind that the housing situation is really a strategic challenge here and that we need to pay apparently top dollar in order to get the candidates that we want.
Thank you, Mr. Lipinski. And this job of this interim president is going to be a very hot one and very intensive, and we do need him to be available and active in the Sarasota area.
Absolutely.
Just real quickly, just because I know we've got to have a little bit of a time constraint here. This meeting was noticed originally for 30 minutes. Trustee Bauerlein, you had your hand up, and then after you, Mr. Trustee Spalding, and then we'll take the vote.
Yeah, I can withdraw my comment. We can move on.
Okay, and Trustee Spalding.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Vice Chair, for making those great clarifications. I just wanted to make a brief comment to clarify some things brought up by Trustee Keenan. The implication that friendship is somehow unethical. I think it's important to clarify that. When the question, and I've been quoted on this before, when the question of the possibility of the current president not staying when we received her pre-negotiated end of contract, I immediately thought, what are the needs that the college might have for a new interim president, given the necessity of having an interim before we had a long-term search. So I did call my friend, Richard Corcoran, who I've known for some time, but also known to be working in Florida education, a trusted colleague of the governor, of the legislators, and all the people we would need. So I don't think that is an unethical matter at all. And matter of fact, I think that's perfectly appropriate. The word college, of course, means partnership, partnership between faculty and students, of course, and their parents. But that goes for trustees and presidents and staff of the college. We're in a partnership here, a collegial partnership for the good of the institution. And so friendship actually is a highly valued thing to bring in someone and bring them to the attention of the board. Having said that, his resume, I think, speaks for itself. I think the general matter that I would point out is that we've just all watched a great Super Bowl game. I hope most of us did. And quarterbacks are important. I think we need to hire a great quarterback to get us forward, to get us to our Super Bowl. This is a great opportunity for the college. And I think to have a Richard Corcoran willing to do this is great for the school. And I'm actually very happy that I could call on a friend of mine, who's a friend of many of us, who will do a great job as an interim, so that we can then have a full-time search for a permanent president. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Trustee Spalding. And one more hand came up, and then Trustee Mackey.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I am supportive of Richard Corcoran coming in as our interim president. My only concern is just the cost of his compensation package. It's double what we've had in the past. We're a small school. I do understand he's coming into a very contentious situation, so he needs to be compensated. And we have the funds, which is great, but what kind of standard does this set for when we get our permanent president? And as a foundation, I understand the foundation is going to have to be supportive of that also. So do we have funds? Do we think we'll have the funds to be to sustain this if we have to continue with this high of a compensation package? That's I'm for Corcoran. I understand if this is what we have to do to get him, but just financially with this school, this is what's kind of gotten us into this situation now as our finances. So I think we need to really make sure we've got this for the future too.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. I will tell you that of the two interim presidential contracts I reviewed after presidents were retained by those two institutions, the money actually went up. I have reviewed the dollars across the board on these contracts, and I am comfortable 1,000% with what's proposed in this contract. That being said, and there's no more discussion points, can we take a vote, please, on the approval of the interim presidential contract for Richard Corcoran? I'd like to do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Trustee Anderson.
I vote in favor.
Trustee Bauerlein.
Yes.
Trustee Karp.
Yes.
Trustee Keenan.
No.
Trustee Kessler.
Yeah. Yes.
Trustee Lipinski.
Yes.
Trustee Mackey.
Yes.
Trustee Rupo.
Yes.
Trustee Spalding.
Yes.
Trustee Spear.
Yes.
Chair Jinks.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Cristaldi.
Yes.
Okay, passes.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the student success plan. And I would like to recognize our interim president, Brad Thiessen, to explain the student success plan report. This came up at the last meeting, and what we would need at this point is a vote on this. But from what I understand, interim president or acting interim president, Mr. Thiessen will explain to us at this point what he needs from us in terms of getting this passed.
Thank you, Chair Jakes. I'll keep this very short. And I think this is a slam dunk for New College. So what this is performance-based funding. At some point, I'll give you all an in-depth primer on what it is. But for now, a set of metrics scored from 0 to 100. And the rules are for New College, we have $7.6 million on the line each year. If we score above 60, we get 4 million of that. If we score above 70, we get the remaining 3.6. Our score last year was 66, which puts us right in the middle there. So what happened is we received the 4 million. We did not receive that 3.6 million. And so then what happens is the Board of Governors gives us a second chance. We can get half of that 3.6 million if we do two things. One is write a plan that will show what we can do within 6-7 months to make improvements. And then you get half the money. So that's what we did back in August. Wrote the plan, got it approved, got $907,000. What you have in front of you in your packet right now is the second part. We then have to demonstrate that we accomplished that plan, that we implemented everything that we said we would in those 6-7 months. So that's what this report shows. So if it is approved by this board, it goes to the Board of Governors at their March meeting. If they approve that we have implemented it as we say we have, then we get $907,000 more.
Thank you. Can we have a motion, please, on the approval of the student success plan report?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who did?
This is Vice Chair Cristaldi. I made the motion. I believe Trustee Lipinski seconded.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on this? Okay, seeing no hands. I just ask for, I don't think we need a roll call vote on this, but just a vote, please. So Ms. Fitzpatrick, tell us how you can record this.
Yes, just all those in favor.
Aye.
Voting yes.
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed. Okay, it passes.
Motion carries. Okay. At this point, we will open up the floor for the call for public comment. We are now moving into the public comment process of the meeting. It's New College's policy that if you wanted to speak at this meeting, you must have registered at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. We have 17 people who have registered and requested to make public comment. This meeting was scheduled for 30 minutes, and we obviously are now over that 30 minutes, but the public comment period is allowed and required. And so each person who is asked to speak, who chooses to speak, will have 1 minute. You will be called by Ms. Fitzpatrick, and you will be unmuted. And at 1 minute, you will be remuted. So Ms. Fitzpatrick, if you can please call the people based on the order of the list, how they came in, I would ask you to do that, and we can proceed from there. Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yeah.
I have to drop off, but I wanted to apologize to my colleagues here for dropping off and say to those making public comment that I do value each and every comment of the public, and I'm sorry I have a predetermined appointment that I have to get to here. So thank you, everyone, and I'll look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you, Trustee Cristaldi. You're excused.
Okay, we're going to start with the first public commenter is Diego Vijaya.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, I'm Diego. I teach theater here at NCF. First, I want to welcome incoming President Corcoran even before they arrive to serve as our leader. I want to express deep awe at your team's negotiating skills. In my hometown, we say game recognizes game, and I can acknowledge that your compensation package, as outlined in the prep materials for this meeting, is ridiculously awesome. Mad respect. Second, shout out to our new sister school, Hillsdale. Go Chargers. Thirdly, President-elect Corcoran said the following at Hillsdale in 2021. He said, quoting Frederick Douglass, "Education is freedom, emancipation, the uplifting of the human soul to the glorious light of truth. To deny any individual a world-class education is a crime against humanity," unquote. And so Corcoran goes on, think about what education is, and nobody knows better than Hillsdale, he says. It is about creating great citizens, and you look at 500 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and they say, we really don't care what their degree is in, we want problem solving and critical thinking.
Next, we have Kristen Miller.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'd like to start with saying I think it's a little bit ridiculous that you could proceed without hearing your speakers first, especially when we wanted to speak on the agenda item that was voted on. I'd also like to know how the trustees can account for the proposal in one meeting that we were in financial straits and offer such an expansive sum to a new interim president. Not sure how you can claim this is fiscally responsible. And last, I'd like to state that the new College Board of Trustees was in violation of the Sunshine Laws at the January 31st meeting when the media announced that the appointment of Richard Corcoran prior to the termination of President Ocker. This indicates that there was some discussion prior to the today's meeting. I also question is in violation, also being that it is on Zoom. Statutory AGO 0956.
Next commenter is Jennifer Wright.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My son is a junior at New College, and I've spent the last week researching Richard Corcoran. Mr. Corcoran is a bad choice for interim president. He has a terrible record of leadership and questionable moral judgment. Even if you support the proposed changes, he is not the person I want you to lead the school. When he was Education Commissioner, Mr. Corcoran was never interested in actually doing the job. Instead, he gave political speeches at private colleges, boosted his own name recognition, and angled for any college presidency that would take him. None did. His apathetic leadership ran the Department of Education into the ground. Under his watch, Florida ranked last for learning rate. Let that sink in and ask yourself, how is he the best candidate for this appointment? I don't have time to discuss Mr. Corcoran's role in the Jefferson County Schools corruption scandal. It's bad. Please Google it. If you insist on appointing someone that shares your new vision, can you at least find an academic with an accomplished history of honest, effective leadership? Thank you.
Next, we have Chris Kotke. Do we have Chris Kotke?
I'm not seeing him in the list.
Okay. We'll skip Chris. So next is Sherry Benedict.
Sherry, you're allowed to speak. You have to unmute your mic.
We can come back to Sherry. Let's then move on to Amanda Gillian.
I am not seeing an Amanda Gillian.
Okay. Next, we have Kathy Antunes.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
No.
All right. Richard Corcoran has clear red flags regarding his performance in education. Under Richard Corcoran, in concert with Manny Diaz, they engineered the charter school takeover, full privatization of Jefferson County schools. During that 5-year period from 2017 to 2022, third grade reading proficiency dropped from 41% to 19%, a stunning failure. After that, Mr. Corcoran was involved in a big rigging scandal to award a $2.5 million contract to MGD Consulting. He presided over the continuing failure of Florida third grade reading to 8th grade reading and math scores, the worst slide in the nation, high to very low scores. These have been ignored. His failures ought to be disqualifying. You need to account for your decision.
Next, we have Eliana Salazar.
Hi, hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you see me? How do I turn my camera on here?
There's no camera. You're just allowed to speak.
Okay. Thank you. I am, having served in public office, I can tell you right now that I know what sunshine violations look like. We heard Matthew Spalding, before the call was publicly recorded, say that he had, Matthew Spalding said here that he has made that phone call to Corcoran, okay? And there should be a public record of that phone call. Ron Cristaldi, who just said that he values public comment, is the board member who asked that public comment be moved to the end of the meeting because he had another appointment. If being on this board is not important to you, then don't be sitting there. This board is not reflective of the student body or the university itself. These are not free thinkers, risk takers, or trailblazers. You are rubber stampers, bootlickers, and grifters. This inflated salary, grossly inflated salary is a bribe, is what it is essentially. And what you're doing here is throwing taxpayer money to your friends. That is not okay. This is a boondoggle of the highest proportion. You don't conduct a business search by letting someone name their price.
Next, we have Tracy Farrow.
Tracy, you're able to speak. You just have to unmute.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Well, if I
Yes.
could see everything that was going on and myself, it would be a little bit easier. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Richard Corcoran is nothing other than a con man with a record of poor executive leadership and questionable moral judgment. He will destroy New College as an institution, no matter what ideology he hides behind. During his term as education commissioner, he publicly posted a video of some sort of weird poolside wrestling match in which he flung his child into the pool, complete disregard for his safety, and the child did in fact hit his head on the side. His private behavior and dominance rituals with his family are his own business. But by sending it out in public video form, we have the right to assume that our students and faculty will suffer the same fate under his dominant reign. This video and his proven substandard track record with Florida's educational system as a whole reveals something deeply wrong with Corcoran as a human being. It demonstrates publicly his deliberate disregard for the safety and well-being of any form of life under his care, custody, or control. And I urge you to look closely not only into Corcoran's obviously questionable character, but the blatant violation of sunshine laws and the Jefferson County bid rigging scandal.
Next, we have Betsy Braden.
Yes, it's absurd that the public comment was moved to the end after the decisions were made. It highlights the disdain that these trustees have toward us and the neglect for our concerns about the direction they are taking our school. This is a hostile takeover of the top 5 public liberal arts school that we call home. These trustees just masquerade as culture warriors to enact their real goal, the privatization of public schools. You are all stooges of oligarchs who pay you big money to follow their deranged privatized goals for society, which Corcoran is an advocate for the privatization of schools. We now have pseudo-historians, science deniers, and school privatization activists for our school's administration. What the hell could go wrong? These administrators despise the student body of the school, using vulgar descriptive language to describe us. They view us as disposable and will do everything they can to make us leave to change the culture so they can create a new student body of heterosexual, white conservative Christians. I yield my time. Fuck you, Rufo.
Next, we have Robin Williams.
Making Corcoran president of a public college is akin to making the Grim Reaper director of your local hospital. Corcoran spoke at Hillsdale, urging faster Florida privatization in order to cross the Rubicon, that is, destroy public education. Why pick someone who, according to a former senator, picked more fights than anybody I've ever seen? Why, when he knew of sexual harassment and misconduct in the legislature and didn't report the perps? How's it kosher for Corcoran to be appointed while still a lobbyist? Could Corcoran's exit as ed commissioner be related to the Jefferson County privatization disaster and his rigged bidding process for dealing with its aftermath? Why isn't he investigated? How's it legal that Hillsdale folks and Koch brother groups were hired under Corcoran to rewrite Florida's civics curriculum, pushing Christian nationalist ideology? Wife Ann was founder of several classical prep schools, part of Hillsdale College's charter initiative. How much of the Corcoran's made from Hillsdale connections? Corcoran and DeSantis are on a mission of vouch rights.
Next, we have Billy Townsend.
Hi, you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
The seizure of New College, like the failed privatization of Jefferson County schools, is the education equivalent of a mafia bust out when the mob comes in to loot a legitimate business in debt to a loan shark. A bust out is the only way any self-respecting college would ever hire Richard Corcoran to lead it. Now we're going to pay him $700,000 or $1,000 per student. For comparison, Florida State pays its president $24 per student. This comparison is the funniest stat I have seen in a very long time. The public should not think of Chris Rufo or Corcoran as anything but education gangsters executing a bust out. Hate is always a grift. These guys hate LGBT kids and honest history because it's lucrative. And New College is the easiest vehicle for keeping that grift going. They will say anything at any time, and they'll eventually move on to some new grift, and we'll all be left picking up the pieces. Thanks.
Next, we have Jay Neves.
I'm not seeing a Jay Neves.
Okay. Next, we have Representative Anna Eskamani.
Good afternoon, everyone. Representative Anna Eskamani. For a board that says they don't want to indoctrinate students, you just hired the indoctrinator in chief. Congratulations. In fact, Richard Corcoran has described using education as a weapon to be used against illogical enemies, a lot of projection coming from the right. And you're going to pay him about $1,000 per student. For reference, FSU president makes about $24 per student. This is a hilarious open grift and a violation of sunshine law. Corcoran is an extreme partisan politician who tried to make himself president at FSU, but they passed on him because he wasn't qualified. And you've already heard all the corruption, especially the grift with Jefferson County and the exodus of education. Teachers from our public schools should be warning enough that he's not the right fit for a new college. Stop using the public dime to fund your grift. Thanks so much.
Next, we have Sonia Hellman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Corcoran's shady business dealings, the fact he's still registered to lobby the Florida State legislative and executive branches, simply disqualifying. Those facts notwithstanding, Mr. Corcoran is not suitable to be the president of New College or any public college in the United States. Not at $700,000, not at any price. He is an enemy of public education. He is an ardent supporter of school privatization. When he was commissioner of education in 2020, he declared publicly one should never read the Washington Post or New York Times. Mr. Corcoran has proudly bullied and fired public school teachers for whom we are compensating as taxpayers currently. Will he extend this predilection for censorship to New College? Will he willfully violate the First Amendment, ignore educational freedom? Horace Mann once said, education, public education, will be the wellspring of democracy, not if Richard Corcoran is appointed president here.
Next, we have Cooper Wright.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Cooper Wright. I'm a junior at New College. In the past month, my school has gone from a tiny Florida honors college to the ground zero of a potentially nationwide political battle. The students don't want this, but I know that we're not the people you intend to please. To the board members, I've read your tweets, your articles, your editorials. You want to pull our school out by its roots and turn it into a ship of Theseus that flies its flag, but has lost everything that made it what it was. NCF offers students a unique experience that can't be found in any other public Florida college. I don't want to be part of a grand experiment. I don't want to be in the last batch of students who got to experience what New College was. To Mr. Corcoran, we're not caricatures. We're human beings who care about this school, and you're not a caricature either. Please get to know us before you make decisions that affect our academic lives. How's the $1,000?
Next, we have Tamara Solom.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I also was going to be speaking for Jane Neves because he's a teacher and he had to log off. Is that possible for me to have 2 minutes?
That's at the discretion of the chair.
We get, this speaker can have her 1 minute, come off, and then come back on to deliver the message from the person who is not available. So
thank you so much.
There'll be a break. It's
just
not
from a technical standpoint, I
Yeah.
would say if you're allowing it, just give her the 2 minutes.
Thank you, because to log in and out would be ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Tamara Solom. I'm the parent of Kari Solom, an alum from 2020. I take exception that you voted prior to public comments. I'm here to state that Richard Corcoran is completely unsuitable for the position of interim president or president, and your salary increase does not reflect fiscal responsibility. Richard Corcoran is a grifter with a record of terrible executive leadership and moral judgment. He will wreck New College as an institution, no matter what ideology he hides behind. Just more than a year ago, the Tampa Bay Times reported how Corcoran, as Commissioner of Education, oversaw a corrupt bid process related to the collapse of the charter school takeover of Jefferson County Public Schools. Corcoran had sole personal control of the corporate bidding process, which led to the resignation of two top leaders. He should have been investigated and put under oath, but Governor DeSantis.
Tamara, we can no longer hear you. Your volume is cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. In addition, the hostile charter takeover of Jefferson County Schools was Corcoran's only significant legislative victory as a failed Speaker of the House. He collaborated with then Senator Manny Diaz to hire Diaz's employer, the Academica Charter School Company, to seize the Jefferson schools. The takeover fell apart completely during Corcoran's failure tenure as Education Commissioner. By the time the Corcoran-Diaz Academica scheme ended, only 19% of Jefferson County third graders passed the state reading test. That was in 2022. By far the worst in the state. This was far worse than when Corcoran sold out the Jefferson schools to Academica in 2018. Corruption, scandal, academic and administrative decline is what you can expect with Corcoran in charge. Thank you.
So Chair Jinks, that concludes our public comment. I would suggest we go back to Ms. Benedict. She was having some audio troubles and we could see if she's resolved that.
Yes, that's fine.
Sherry Benedict.
Okay, ready.
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, she's too upset to speak, so I'm going to speak for her. She's right next to me.
Can we have the identity
My
of
name
who's
is Tracy
speaking?
Farrow. Yeah. Okay. Are you ready? I would like to get in this. I believe, listening to this and doing as much research as I have, that all of this points back to Hillsdale and Spalding. I actually have created a mock crime board connecting all of you together, and I will continue to do it. This is going to come out to the public. The tentacles of this bullshit board and this bullshit.
Okay. We've concluded the public comment portion of the meeting, Chair Jinks.
Thank you. Having give me a moment, please. Having concluded the public comment portion of the meeting and having addressed the motions that were on the floor, I will just advise everybody that I will be sending a letter to the Board of Governors along with the proposed contract for the review by the people above us to conduct its own meeting, which it notices as a public meeting as well on its time frame. So that being said, I don't think I need a motion, but our business is concluded and we can be adjourned.